Okay.
Okay, we are live. Hi, Francesco. Thanks for joining me today. It's a great honor and pleasure for me to meet you in person.
Hey, nice to meet you, and it's a pleasure for me. I just muted my YouTube because every time we start doing this kind of chat, it starts with a delay.
Oh yeah.
And yeah. So I just muted myself, and yeah, thank you very much for asking me to join. It's a pleasure.
Right. So tell me, how's it going with you in Italy? Oh, I have this delay here as well. Let me mute this too.
You have the same issue.
Yeah, muted it. So tell me, how's it going on your end? How's it going in Italy? I seem to be surrounded by Italians all the time. My previous such chat was with Michele Guitoli, he's also Italian, and before with Mark Romatica, he lives in Sicily, and my best friend is a specialist in Italian and in Italy, and everything is Italian.
Wow. So you're surrounded by Italians or people that
or are connected
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, here it's been pretty rough at first because we in Europe we got the virus. Italy was the first country that got it from like straight after China. So we got a very strict lockdown at the very beginning, and yeah, it's been pretty rough. I'm pretty lucky. Whole FLESHGOD actually are pretty lucky because we live in a region which is not that bad. I mean, like at the very beginning, we didn't have like an extreme death toll like the north of Italy have, and so the regions that have been more hit are basically the north of Italy, and so it was pretty bad. And as I said, we were first, so a little bit unprepared, but we had like 2 months and a half of very strict lockdown, let's say 2 months. And then now we started to lifting these restrictions and having a little bit more, chances to go out. First it was for jogging and stuff like that. Now, like they're reopening more or less, and in June they're going to reopen a little bit the restaurants, bars, and everything. So we are slowly restarting. The contagion curve is going down still, so it's steady going down. So I'm pretty optimistic that things are going to be better in the summer. So we will not have like a bad second wave in the fall, but I don't know, and we just have to be to hope and be confident.
Well, in here, we never know if all the numbers are correct, but they decided to put the victory parade on the 24th of June, which means that by that time everybody should be healthy. So I think they will reopen it. But for us, it hasn't been that bad either, because normally we sit here at home and we work, and right now we sit at home and we work, so not a great big
more or less, yes. I said this several times. I mean, for me, like for my hobbies or stuff, it affected me. Of course, it affected the fact that to go on tour, so yeah, we have to cancel the tour and everything. But when I'm home working on new music or working on other albums or whatever, basically I'm stuck at home. I don't go out that much, so it didn't change that much for me as well. I mean, apart from the fact that we had to cancel the tour, which is a bummer, but I hope that next year we're gonna play those shows that we missed this year, and that's it. We just took this time to improve and take some time for our families. So let's see it in a positive way, let's say.
What about your tour? The big European tour which you have planned. How are you about that?
The European tour is more or less confirmed. I mean, the problem is we had actually a big tour in the United States that we tried to postpone to September, but it didn't work because it's very complicated to restart the machine in this short time. And actually, we have no idea if in September it's going to be doable, especially for United States that are. It's pretty fucked up situation there now. So the US has been moved to 2021. The only thing that and all the festivals as well has been pushed to 2021. The only thing that we kept like confirmed so far is tour, the European tour, which was a big tour, like 40 gigs all over Europe. And also we wanted to add a gig in Moscow, actually, not a little bit like a few weeks before in September. That was the plan, but of course the Moscow show has been pushed as well. And this tour is confirmed, but the problem is that we don't know how it's going to work, how it's going to be with all the government's restrictions, and how it's going to be the rules, and what is going to happen. I mean, if they call us and they say, okay, we have these 20 shows, everything is safe, it's safe for the fans, and you know, you just have to perform, and all the clubs will take care of health of the fans and of the band and all the crews, then for us, you know, we are ready to go whenever they ask. But I actually have no idea, I have no clue. Like, Italy is pretty fucked up, Spain as well. So I don't know if the south of Europe can be to have shows. Pretty sure that the center of Europe, the north of Europe, they are already restarting. I have a friend in Switzerland that said that this Friday, no, actually yesterday night, Saturday, they restarted with the shows. It was like,
really?
They have like, they had like 300 people restriction entrance. So they have like, only 300 people were allowed to the show, but you know, it is what it is in these times. So I have no idea. I mean, I hope that we will be ready to restart in the fall, but I have no clue if it's gonna be something realistic or not so far. I mean, especially because this virus is moving down now. So the south of the world is starting to be contagion, like it's starting to be contagious, and you know, all these people cannot be there like forever. So the virus is going to be back probably in the north part of the world, probably for the late fall, early winter. So it's more or less the time frame in which we are supposed to be on tour in Europe. So I don't know.
Well, we actually are facing approximately the same thing. Do you know, by the way, that your European tour is organized by our agent? So you have a booking agent, but the organizer of the tour, Hank, he's our agent, and he organizes.
No, Hank, yeah,
all of our tours.
No, yeah, he's a good guy.
He really helped us out.
The only thing that I really hope that it's gonna. I really hope that it's gonna happen. But if we have issues, I think that we are ready to postpone this tour, like for 2021. I mean, it's not up to us. It's not up to him. Again, it's more about the government rules and all this. How much they will lift the restrictions and how much the clubs are going to be ready to set the shows up, because sometimes they are asking something which is impossible. Like, okay, they want the people to sit down on chairs, 2 meters one from each other. It's not a metal show, so I don't know if they are gonna be willing to do something like that, you know?
We had, well, in fact, before this shittle stroke, we had tours planned for the entire world, basically, except Antarctica and Africa. And we still hope to go forth with some American dates at the end of this year, both South and North America. We're actually expecting them, right now, and Europe in the beginning of 2021. But of course, right now, everybody is absolutely unsure. But I keep my fingers crossed that everything happens and that we.
Yeah. So when are you supposed to be on tour in North America?
Oh, in December.
December. Yeah. Well, we have some months, and we have to see. I said some shows in America and some states are already happening. So they have these restrictions, like 300 people restrictions. Some other clubs like 200, some others 5. It's very wild. There is it's like Russia's a federation, so every state has its own rules, but the majority of the states, majority of the cities are.
Hmm?
Hey.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
All fine.
Yeah. As I said, the majority of the cities are, they have different routes, different. I think that it's pretty weird and complicated to go to the United States before of a vaccine, especially because for all Europeans it's going to be a problem with the medical care because we don't have insurance there, so it's pretty risky. But I have seen we were discussing this this week, and I've seen that some insurance companies they are extending to COVID-19 the coverage. So let's see if it's going to happen. Then it can make sense, to go there even before. Of course, you have to wear masks and stay away from people. It's a terrible situation, but we have to survive. So we have to do what we have to do. It's not up to us. In a certain way, we have to adapt as soon as possible.
Well, let's see. I think the biggest problem of America right now is not the virus, I think. And this second problem shows that the virus is not a problem at all.
Yeah.
The main problems is that I think they're facing a potential civil war there, and instead of unifying the nation is being segregated further and further. And instead of trying to somehow compromise and level it out, is just becoming worse and worse. So we have tons of fans in America. We have friends in America. We keep our hand on the pulse, because we have a very positive attitude to America, unlike our government. So actually, Americans buy the majority of our music. So it's the Americans and the British. But so we have the biggest amount of fans there, and for this reason, we really I personally read the news every day, and I try to read from all angles. CNN, Fox News, to see the opposite opinions and everything. But so far, the only positive thing I see there that Americans have balls. That's for sure. That's what I like about them. So on both sides, there are people who are ready to stand up, and fight for what they believe in, and that is cool. But the bad thing is that it turns violent, and that I don't really see any attempts by the government to actually to level it down. What I see is like Julius Caesar, your fellow countrymen said, "Divide et impera." Yeah, so first, like in Star Wars, you start a war, you control both sides, and that allows you to assume power. That's what I don't like.
Yeah, I agree with the majority of things you said. I mean, like, there are some stuff they it's they have some stuff to fix since a lot of time, and actually we had to as well in Europe, but the world somehow helped us to face the problem in a more serious way, let's say, and it's a different position for us, because with, like, for example, um, in the last in the last 67 years, we built a society from the rumbles of the war. So whatever it is, if it's like left wing or right wing, still they are very, you know they stay away from, like, all this any kind of racism. We have some, like, extremely bad right wing that still have, like, these things, but it's a very small amount of people. So it's this, of course, our war Second World War experience helped us, or let's say pushed us against the wall, and we had to face this problem, like, immediately. More or less, we had, like, France probably had some other issues to fix. Germany, they still have some other things to improve, but also several parts of Italy has this kind of stuff going on still, but it's not that bad at all. And as I said, they have these issues for years, and they always try to. I think they escape the problem a little bit. They sometimes they just make statements and stuff, but they never face the problem for real. And now, especially in a situation of crisis, like general crisis like this, all the things that has not been solved, in a moment of tension, they pops out and they explode, like, even worse, like Pandora vase. It's now all the evils and everything is spread totally. So it's I agree that they have no intention to do this, because as long as people are busy fighting each other, they don't
Yeah,
take care about the big problems.
that's the negative thing, and I'm sure that both sides are being manipulated. So, as usual, when COVID broke out, every single possible entity in the whole world started hyping on it. So, whoever could earn anything started doing so. And same here. We have a good cause. They fight racism, which is a problem in America, and it has always been. And not only in America, but
Mhm.
now every possible power is trying to take advantage of it. Both sides are being manipulated, and they are being manipulated where their soft spot is. So there are certain topics.
Yeah.
If you open your mouth and you start speaking about those topics, if that person has a radical position, be that on the left or on the right, you're gonna end up having a conflict. Like, I'm absolutely terrified when I just scroll through Facebook and I see people saying, like, if you support blah blah blah, then unfriend me. Get the fuck out of my feed. I think that that's the worst thing, because what that leads to is that people stop listening to the other side. So when somebody only has friends who share their opinion, they only read the media
Yeah.
which shares
It's
their
like
opinion.
it's like a
Yeah,
close thing.
we have two separate societies who hate each other, and there is no dialogue. They're not listening to each other, and this leads to war, and this will never lead to anything positive. And actually, social media are making that worse, because they are unintentionally, because today people have, which is actually a very good thing. People have the opportunity to choose their sources of information, but that has a downside.
Yeah.
and the downside is that people only hear what they want to hear, you know. So
Yeah.
and this only brings about conflict, and I'm really, really worried that COVID might be the least of our problems, you know, with this in mind.
Yeah, I think that's I think it's a trigger pulled. You know, it's like as I said, is we are we for years we tried to hide these problems, and now that there is like a global emergency, then all this shit is popping up, and we are not ready to face it. And as you said, the big problem, another big problem, is this kind of that is spreading everywhere in the world. So you just like you see a lot of people following this new leaders that have this like very easy formulas in a complex world, in a complex society in which the problems has to be solved in details and not just as a whole thing. So it's you know, these people make it pretty easy. They make these proclamas on Facebook or whatever, Twitter, and they have this just herd of sheep that they just follow. And as you said, it's a basically close-minded people that don't want to hear the other opinion, especially because they are very extremist opinions, you know. So they just don't want to, you know, discuss or have like a constructive discussion about the things, you know. They just have to. So yeah, and it's pretty scary. But as you said, you know, I think that there's first health, and then now let's say economic and social emergency is just a trigger, and now all the other problems are becoming bigger and bigger every day, because we're not ready as a societies, different societies. We're not ready. You know, even the COVID-19, you know, the exploitation of the natural environment, you know, pushed us to every day to exploit and to somehow, you know, we are asking too much from our, and this is a consequence of this. So,
well, actually, that's my thought, because, you know, I don't preach anything as I say, but I keep to this thing. I think that the planet is a living organism, you know, so like any biological species, you know, it's like a type of cell, it's like a tissue, and it's a huge collective consciousness. And I think that it's called the Gaia approach. And if you look at it that way,
I'm not. No, sorry. No, I said I'm not preaching as well. I just want that, you know, it's our species is extremely demanding. You know, we are not. We are just aiming for some more all the time, and we are growing in number. And the more we ask to the planet, and the more the planet somehow has to defend itself. I mean, like, have you seen what happened with the elephant now? You know, it's like everybody's posting on Facebook the story of the elephant that has been, you know, killed by this like fruit bomb, you know, stuff like that, because this is an extreme exploitation of the resources. So even the like wild animals, they are forced to move and try to themselves in different ways, and it's a war between species, even more, and it's the more not we just have no respect, and we just we're never satisfied with what we get. You know, we always ask more and more. So this is not the right path.
I agree completely. And also, what I think is, if you take an organism, a living thing, there are different processes going on, like like metabolical things and stuff. And you can see that the planet is changing somehow its modes of functioning. So you can see that in many things. You can see that in the abnormal weather. For example, here in Moscow, we have 2 weeks of non-stop rain. This has never happened in history. It's just raining and raining and raining and raining and raining, like in the jungle. And there are hurricanes, strong winds, things that never happened before. And for example, this winter was the warmest ever. We almost didn't have minus, which is crazy for these lands, here. And the COVID, like a systemic thing,
this year.
systemic process, and many other things. So some processes in the planet, are changing, and this is and now these riots in America. I think that all these processes are secondary to the primary process that the planet is trying to change something. And I think that well, it might not be very pleasant for the human race because of what you have just said, because maybe we are not what some people think we are. Maybe we are actually destroying the very body which gives us life. I mean, our planet. And maybe the immune system of the planet is starting to work.
Yeah, I have some because you are clipping here and there because of my connection probably. Can you talk?
Yeah. But you sometimes have connection thingies. If I were you, I would turn off that YouTube browser tab, and it should be fine then.
I think. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Yeah, I think I had some.
There is just
some issue here and there.
There is a latency, but it's not critical. Yeah.
Okay, cool. As long as you can hear and see me, fine. It's pretty hard to follow you sometimes because you freeze. But I don't know if it's my problem. You're in Moscow, you shouldn't have this kind of problems. I live in the countryside, so maybe it's my fault.
Well, you run these chats every week, and they are fine, so no. Again, as I said, we have thunderstorms and hurricanes here, so... guys, could you please write in the chat?
Here, the weather has been very weird in Italy as well. Like we had as well the warmest winter ever, probably. Like in the mountains that we have, like I have mountains 20 minutes away from my place. There was almost no snow.
So much. I would love actually to live somewhere in Italy, because you have the north with the mountains and the forests, and you have the south, with the sea and the what we call steppe.
It's cool. It's a cool place.
Prairies, and all that. Been to Italy many times.
You can come visit me. You can come visit me. I live in the center, so we can go north to the Alps or south to Sicily, and we go catch up.
Yeah, I'll give you both.
It's actually pretty long boot. If you drive, I think if you drive from up north to the south, it's gonna take like I don't know, maybe 20 hours. I don't know. A lot.
We also have a friend in the Veneto region who says also come to us. And as I said,
Veneto.
Yeah, and as I said, my best friend he is a PhD in philosophy, and he studies Neoplatonic philosophy, and precisely he studies the works of Marcello Ficino, and he's fluent in Italian and in Latin. And in ancient Greek also. And he has been like a zillion times to Italy, including scholarships at universities. And we're thinking that as soon as the borders open, if our government doesn't introduce Iron Curtain number 2, which we hope they won't, if the borders open, then we are thinking of either going to Italy or to Portugal, or to Portugal via Italy. So if we pass by, I'll give you a call. Can you hear me?
Hey man, I lost you. Let me try to do something. Let me try to do something for the connection. Coming. Sure. I'm coming back.
Yeah, of course. Okay, in the meantime, guys, I will read your questions, okay?
All right.
You opened the window.
Let me see if it works better now.
You opened the window, and that helps the connection.
Yeah.
How? Do you have some sort of satellite?
Yeah, because it's like a wireless system. Because where I live is can you hear me better now?
Absolutely. Fantastic. 100%.
Okay, so my problem is that I live in an area in which there's no line, no connection. So everything that we have is like
that's my dream.
How do you call it? Like a satellite thing, It's something like that. So I have a router there, and if I open the window, sometimes it works better because the wall is a very old house, and I have very, very thick walls. So I have to open the window to make it work better, and I see you a little bit better, and probably I'm gonna hear you even better.
Well,
usually it works with the window closed, but there's something maybe.
It has improved.
Sorry, man?
The connection has improved.
Yeah. It works better now.
Okay. Right. So there we go. So as I said, if they open the border and we make it to Italy, then I'll give you a call.
Absolutely, man.
Because I will be traveling with my friend who is a specialist in Italy and in Italian history and culture and everything.
Sure. Yeah, but the place I live is something that you might love because it's very medieval place.
Oh, I actually love your ceiling.
Yeah, it's extremely. My ceiling? Yeah. This one?
It's fantastic.
Yeah, you know why?
I'm in a fucking apartment
It's fantastic.
block, in a Soviet apartment block. You know these gray buildings that look like
I know.
Ant termites. Well, that's how people live in Russia.
Yeah,
no, you can live
there are
outside.
two reasons why. There are two reasons why I have this ceiling. One is because this is a pretty old house, and when they rebuild it or reshape the house, you have to respect the same how it was before. Because this area, like all the towns in this area, are like culturally relevant places. So you cannot just build your house as you want. You need to be approved. This house has been I think it has like over 300 years.
Wow.
So so you have. And the other reason is where I live is pretty famous for earthquakes. So which is not it's not that cool. And so all the roof and all the ceilings are made with wood because it absorbs the vibrations.
Yeah, and it's a little bit flexible. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so it's safer and that's it, But it's a pain in the ass because it's very dark with the daylight. It doesn't reflect the light at all, so it's pretty dark. You have a sphinx. You have a lion there.
We have a little visitor, yeah, but she's gone now. She went away.
She's gone. What's her name? Cool.
In Russian, cat is koshka, so kor are the first two letters.
Okay.
It's like in English.
Koshka.
Yeah, it's like in English that would be care.
Yeah, yeah.
It's cat moment. People are writing. Oh, and they say that your quality is 10x better. Cool. I can roger that.
Okay, okay, cool.
People, I really enjoy these streams that
Awesome.
bring people around the world. Yeah, I agree. Never before have musicians been sitting there, and talking to each other like this. I hope this will not end
Yeah,
after
I think
COVID.
yeah, absolutely. I think there's is this is I have I discussed about this with Mark once, and I think that this whole thing, especially for creative people, for artists and for people that are that have this, let's say, desire to meet and to explore other cultures, and uh, everyone who has the curiosity to know something different. I think this whole thing has been like a good moment, that a positive trigger in this way. And I think it's thanks to this that a lot of things that we never considered before started to pop in our minds. And one of this is this kind of podcasts, and I really love it as well, because it's a way to show a different side of musicians to people, of course, but also it's a good way to meet other musicians.
Absolutely, yeah.
And yeah, and not all the bands are doing this. So I do believe that those who do something like this show a different side of themselves as an artist. And I do believe that people appreciate this a lot. So yeah, this COVID-19 is a course, is something that it's very hard to coexist with, but at the same time it can become an opportunity if you turn it into a positive energy. So yeah, I do believe that there's a great thing that is happening right now, that the fans has the chance to witness and participate to this kind of discussion between musicians.
Absolutely. One thing, actually, I always wanted to ask you about, totally switching the topic here, but that's just a personal thing. But I'm also sure that that would be interesting for the people, because we always have these questions about the music business and how to grow a band and things like that. You are one of those guys who started nowhere, and you built yourself up to a very high level from the very ground up. And I've just been checking out your Shopify store the other day, and I really, really
Okay.
love how you did it. So you have like a zillion amount of merch there, and and it doesn't have a fancy design, but it has a functional design. That's what I like. That's what I have on my websites as well. Tell me about the story. Tell me about how you manage this, and what would you recommend to other bands who are, just starting right now today, and are just looking like this at the world, and they have no idea how to do it.
Well, we thank you very much for saying that. I mean, like, yeah, we are pretty proud of what we've done so far, especially often that people from Italy, runs a band and professionally. Um, and yes, it's been tough so far, but it's been a very nice journey. The thing that we always worked very hard, and I think the secret was that we always tried to learn from other bands, not copying, which is a bad thing, let's say, but always try to understand which moves are essential to grow as a band. And in the business side, let's say, not in the creative aspect, of course. So we have our music, our ideas, our artistic proposal, and how can we build something around this that creates some kind of financial efficiency to the band, which is essential. And so we always looked up to the merchandise as a source of a very important part to finance the band. And in these moments, in these times in which we are all locked down home, the store has been very, very important for us. And the way we build it, as you said, very essential and very easy to use, helped us to get more customers and more people that are willing to support the band. So it's that thing is very important. I think as much as the music itself, as much as the creative part as well. The core is the music, is the artistic proposal, is the all the even if you just want to entertain people, that's fine, no problem. But this is not. This cannot be, just that. You, especially nowadays, in which there is this extreme competition, you have to offer something which is very clear, very easy to use, and that is somehow carrying money to the band, because otherwise we just have to quit and start other jobs. So what we've done basically is always try to invest as much as possible in merchandise, on good quality merchandise for live and for the web store, in order to have this constant, let's say, amount of money that to help us to survive all the situations and let us free to do whatever we like as musicians. Because sometimes the problem is the opposite way. You are so much into music that because for you is the core, is the most important part, of course, that you just forget everything else, and then all of a sudden you realize that you cannot carry on the band because you financially you cannot do it, and then you start doing like shitty music to trying to just for because you need to reach more people or whatever. So sometimes you sell out musically and artistically because you never cared about other aspects. I think that sometimes it's better if you like insist a little bit more with the merchandise, but you are more honest, like on the artistical side, instead of compromising on the artistical side because you are not a good manager of the band. So it's yeah. So basically, it's she's there in the back. Yeah. She came back.
Band totem.
So if you want me to suggest something, I would say that this is a very important thing to do. Like have something to sell in order to be free, and yeah, and then try to play as much as possible as you are doing now. Like I know some bands from Russia, not many actually. You have a big scene there, but it's not very often that the Russian bands go abroad. So I think that another good secret is to invest, especially at the very beginning, in touring abroad, because you can become like the biggest band of your city, but it will never be enough to survive as a band. So you have to. This music is very underground, is for a very underground audience, not. It is numerous, it's a crowded scene, but worldwide, not just for like a city. And so I would suggest as well to try to go abroad as much as possible and to bring the music out of your country as much as possible. As you said, you have like your main markets are United States and UK. But no, they will never know that you have this kind of music if you never try to go there and try to play for them.
Absolutely, yeah. What do you think about crowdfunding and Patreon?
I think that for independent bands nowadays it's essential. I never discussed the fact that there's a very important way to start, a band nowadays, especially because all the labels are so busy and there's no investment, like proper investment anymore in the band. So, but basically, what a label does is like it's a loan that gives you money, but you use it for recording, and then you have to go and on tour and basically pay your bills by touring, by being on tour, like by playing shows. And as I said, yeah, a small amount of this can be like web stores and stuff like that can help a little bit, but basically it's going on tour. So the Patreon and all this stuff are very important for independent artists, because it's very hard to reach a label and get a contract that makes sense economically. So if you are, and it's very democratic, because if you suck, nobody will give you money. If you are a good artist and there is interest behind you, then makes sense. And I also believe that is a good way to finance some very important project that you cannot finance anymore because the labels cannot take the risk. I make an example. If FLESHGOD tomorrow want to do like a show with the orchestra, and there is no investment by the label, for example, and there is no government funds that we can access, then it makes sense to go to the fans and say, okay, you asked for FLESHGOD with an orchestra for 20 years. Now we have the capability to do it. We can organize this thing. We can make it happen. The problem is that we cannot risk the money to do something like this. Then it makes sense to do this, but it's a project. It's relegated to a project. It's something that you pay for. What I don't understand is bands that have like a career and they have like all the chances to make it work on their legs as much as we do, but they rather ask money for nothing. That is something that I don't understand. That is another field, another thing. You have a label, you have a manager, you have a booker. Even before the COVID-19, you have all the partners that you need to make it work as a band, but still you ask money. And then this kind of stuff, I really don't understand it. I mean, I don't think it's fair, 100%. But again, if you are an independent artist, if you have a project and you need to finance the project, then it's totally fine to do it. But it's something that people pay for. You want FLESHGOD orchestra? Okay, it's 10 euros. You give me 10 euros, and then you get the orchestra. Then it makes sense for you. Otherwise, it's just begging, I guess.
That's actually the reason people are asking, like, Imperial Age, go to Patreon. That's the reason why we're not on Patreon yet. And we have been preparing it for almost a year now, because we want to give some real value to people. We just don't want to sit there and pay us per month. That's not cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you do absolutely. I mean, like, if you do stuff like YouTube or Instagram, like all these artists, they need to be financed. Like, I have this podcast, which is Saturday Night Lockdown. And we wanted to give to this podcast like a very very funny way to a little bit more. I didn't want to.
I love
to
the
take
cartoon
it so seriously,
pictures of the musicians.
Yeah, so because it's a very sad moment for humanity, and I thought that we already get enough depression from the news. So I was like, okay, let's do something that is like very interesting for the fans, but also a fun time, like a moment in which we can just disconnect to this old disaster, and we just stay with our favorite musicians and follow our passion and not take it too seriously. So we decided to give this let's say this layout and all this funny, use these funny caricatures of the musicians to make it a little bit more cool. And Abby, the girl that she's doing all these designs, for example, she's on Patreon, and I'm always promoting her because she's an independent artist, and she needs the people to go there and it's work in this way. So it's a great tool if you are an independent artist and you give something back. But just asking money because you are, let's say, unlucky, or you're not, this. Oh, I fucked up with this, or I fucked up with that, or and so give me money because that is not fair. I mean, like.
I agree completely.
I don't get it. I mean, like if you had like a regular job and you suffer a theft or you make a wrong move as an or whatever, you fuck up with something, there's nobody that gives you money back. I mean, like they just tell you, oh, you're an idiot, you fucked up, that's it. So I think it's not fair. If you fuck up in this industry as well, you shouldn't go and beg money and absorb resources for other bands that deserve it. That's it.
I agree completely. But you say independent many times. What would be your take today, in 2020? Independent, I'm not saying unsigned. There's a big difference between unsigned and independent. Unsigned is when nobody signs you.
I was saying, independent. Maybe. I meant like unsigned bands, like bands that are just starting, stuff like that are looking for somebody that finances the first album. As I said, the point is the project. Even if you do a pattern, which is a different thing, if you always give material, but relevant material, not just a picture or just stuff that every other band gives for free.
For example, if you have like a plan, things I hate most. I mean, I have two gorgeous girls in the band, but none of them does this, and I'm happy because of that. But what I hate when some artists go there to Patreon and they start saying, "Give me money and I will send you pictures of myself," or like, "I will give you a shout out on Instagram. Hello, Joe. Thanks for supporting me." That's the reason why we're not there, because we are sitting there. We want to make films. We want to make films which expand on the topics of our songs. Like Sabaton do. So something that would really give additional value. Something that we really can invest our energy into, but that takes a lot of time. But
it has to make sense. Yeah,
I interrupted you,
but they're paying for your time.
Yeah, I mean, but
no worries.
But
I mean, like I totally agree because
value,
I totally agree because
it's all about value.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, and I totally agree because I mean, like you can do it. Like it's totally fair to do it if you always deliver something that is interesting for the fans. But if sometimes it feels like it's just like a ripoff, So, but it's not my problem. I mean, for me, everybody is free to do whatever he likes. I think it's just a different working ethic. I try to work hard with the music. I try to work hard with the videos. And whenever we release something with FLESHGOD, we got enough support to avoid this kind of stuff. Of course, all this coronavirus bring us a different perspective. It's like, as I said, a worldwide crisis. So I would never say, okay, no, we are never going to use this or that, because I don't know. But if we do it, it's because we are giving something. It's not just asking for money to survive. I mean, like, you can change your activity if it's not working anymore. It is what it is. You have to accept it. Sometimes it's very sad that this happens, because your expectations are always different from people's expectations. But in the end, it's the audience that decide if it's worth it or not. So
I agree.
And I think that when you do like these Patreon things or stuff like that without giving back enough material, like I mean, enough, uh, as you said, you don't add any creative value to what you're already doing as a band. That it can backfire. It's very bad for you. So I think it's pretty risky to do something like that without having like a clear idea of what you're gonna do or what you want to do with that.
So, Francesco, what do you think in 2020, as I said, are independent versus label? So, you are here a person who is signed to the best metal label in the world, which is Nuclear Blast. And I'm a guy here who is so far forcefully independent. So, I'll just give you the background. Since 2012, we were, begging all the higher powers to get a record deal. Like, why the fuck are we not noticed? What the hell? And this year, actually, this month, well, not in June, but over the past 30 days, we got an offer from, I'm not going to say names here because I like the guys and I respect the guys and I listen to their bands every day in my earphones, So, but we got an offer, like the top 3 metal labels in the world, right? We got a contract offer from one of them, and we were approached by the other, and we ended up declining both, because the words which we ultimately used was that, guys, if we sign this deal here, we would have to find ourselves a day job. So right now we're fully supported by the band. Right now that's all that we do. And we're completely independent. We're completely supported by our fans. Mostly actually by CD sales from our web shop, which is, everybody's telling me people are not buying CDs. I don't see that. I see people buying CDs every fucking day, and we have had to hire a person who's doing the shop full time because at some point we were just overwhelmed. That's why I was so interested in your shop. But in our case, it's not the merch; it's the CDs, and
Wow.
so that's how it is. And we had to hire another person full time to work as our assistant, to do the PR. She prepared the press release for this talk and so forth. So, and we get finally, it looks like the universe gives you things when you no longer need them. So finally, we get these offers.
Yeah.
And we look at them and we realize that mathematically, financially, it doesn't work out, But and I know that one of those deals was really good actually, but honestly speaking, I'm still not sure because all the bands whom I know, all the bands whom I listen to, they are on different record labels. So we have this unique thing here that we have 2 different perspectives here. So what would be your take here in 2020? What do you think?
Okay. Let's say I perfectly understand what you say. I want to say something first. We are one of the latest bands that got been signed.
That's why I'm asking you.
With a contract that makes sense. Okay, so the problem of the labels nowadays is that it's very hard for them to sell the CDs and to sell music in general. They are now finding this new dimension to make money out of YouTube views or streamings or digital sales. It's a new world they are exploring now, and it's working way better than the past few years. But when we got signed, when we got the first deal and then the deal with Nuclear Blast still, it was a very organic process, and it was very as I said, we were probably the last generation of bands that has been signed with a purpose from the label to sell the band. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's a different way. I think that they are more like distributors. Okay. So if you are in the, what you asked me, what was my take? I mean, I have no idea because, as you said, you have to do the math to know how bad it was for you to sign to a label instead of staying as an independent. But still, the thing that can offer you a label is the promotion and is the distribution of your music, which is essential because the competition is very high. But of course, in the end, all the bands have to pay the bills. And in the end, as human beings, we rather invest all the time that we have in the music and in the project that we have instead of having like a side job, stuff like that. So I perfectly understand. I'm the wrong guy to ask something like this actually because it's very tough. I think I will go for the same decision. I will take the same decision that you take because I really like to invest my time in music, and I cannot think of myself doing another thing, unless I'm forced by circumstances. So I perfectly understand that. But I think it's very important, especially for a band like you that are emerging right now, to have a good label. I'm just surprised that you couldn't find a deal or a good
No, no,
compromise
no.
with a
I'm
bigger
sorry
label.
for interrupting you, but one of the deal which we actually got offered, I showed it to some people in the business, and they said that that was a fucking fantastic deal, And judging from what I heard and what I read, it was a fantastic deal. I cannot go into details for obvious reasons,
Yeah.
but trust me, it was not an exploitative deal. It was not a 360 deal. It was a really good deal, but the math just didn't make itself. I'm just,
Yeah.
and that's what I said. With all due respect,
it can happen.
you know,
It can happen because it's every story of every band is a different one. As I said, for example, you are like an exception because you are selling so many CDs, for example. So maybe your audience, your target, the dynamics behind the band are totally different. So probably for you, it didn't make sense. I do believe that it's for a band like you, especially if you are if you can survive with your store and just by playing, it makes sense. Absolutely makes sense to grow as an independent and just optimize all your costs and get all the money. That makes sense for you. Absolutely. When back in the days when we started, we were from nowhere, and it was very hard to distribute the music and make it work as a full day job as a musician. So what we've done is that okay, we take the deal, we grow as a band, and in the meantime, we just give lessons. So we just gravitate, we just stay around the same field, and it worked out. And so far, when we have like very tough moments in which we need to get some extra money, we still give lessons, we still make collaborations, we still try to make some money out of a business as many aspects, and so that's the thing that we try to that was the strategy more or less. But I wouldn't have like a suggestion right now because, as I said, like every story is totally different. So it's it's depending on many aspects of your life, what you expect from yourself, what you want to do, what are your targets, and everything. So it is very personal, let's say,
but
and every individual has a different story. So
my question always was, for example, looking at you, that on every label, you have small artists and you have bigger artists, but they all signed to the same label. You know, they all have the same clout and the same resources behind them, theoretically at least. But when you look at what's happening, and actually Nuclear Blast is the least, has that problem the least. The other labels have that more in metal. So you have like one really big band, and for every one really big band, you have like 10 or 15 small bands whom you have never heard about.
Yeah.
But they're all signed to the same label, you know? And I've always had this question, like, you know, why? What's the difference? And reading about you, I see that you have actually put a huge amount of energy and work into developing yourself and into developing your band, but also looking at you and at similar bands, I start having the question: who pulls whom? You know, is it the label who's pulling the band, or is it the small amount of really successful bands who have their shit together and who do it that are actually pulling the label? It's a big, and all the other bands who are assigned to that label as well, you know.
Well, there are like I think that there are two leagues in the labels, and they have like, for even Nuclear Blast, they have like the bigger league in which you find people like Slayer, Nightwish, Sabaton, and stuff like that, you know, which is a different story. Okay, so this is they have a certain investment, and they have like a huge return of investment every time they do something. But all these labels are like independent labels. They are not major, so they still feed the underground, and they are alive because of the underground. Because like most of the bands in the metal fans are musicians, and they all play, and they have, so keeping the scene alive is essential. And so they sign many bands in this secondary label, in which there are the small fishes like us, for example.
You're not that small of a fish.
It's,
I mean, like,
yeah,
completely
I mean, like,
no name bands who I've never heard about, you know.
Yeah, but then we are growing, like, in a, like, let's make in a label like Nuclear Blast. As I said, you know, there are many bands that are bigger than us that have like a longer story. So one thing is of course, the quality of the music, and how sellable is the music, and so they have this prime, like, first league of these big bands, and also the history of these bands. Well, most of these bands are like iconic and like legendary bands. So they're all been small fishes back in the days. As I said, in this secondary league, it's more up to the band and what you want to do with your music, what you want to do with your work. Like, for example, when the whole thing, the COVID-19 happened, like, I've seen a lot of bands just giving up.
Really?
Like saying, like, okay.
Seriously?
I've seen bands like, okay.
I can't believe this, honestly, because you just do an online concert and you raise enough money to live through the entire COVID.
It's not. Maybe yes. I don't know. Like, I think it's it depends on. I have no idea what. I think it's like a psychological thing. Like, a lot of musicians got depressed. Me, like, if I want to, like, in person, personally, let's say that. At first, I wasn't that inspired. I tried to put some music together to do something, but it didn't work at all. So I felt like very lost and very. It was an awkward feeling, and but after like 2 weeks that I was like sitting at the desk and try to play something and try to record something new and work on the stuff, it's like, this is not the way I can turn this energy, because I feel isolated, So we decided to choose a different path, and this leads to work a shitload of time, and so I've seen bands that they send this amount of work in front of themselves, and they said, okay, this is too much, I will wait, I will do something different now. So the strategies were very different, and I think that something that FLESHGOD always had is this attitude of, like, if there's something that has to be done, we get it done as soon as possible. We try to do it immediately. We just don't sleep on it. We just I think it's a very aggressive way like facing your work, and I think it works, and especially in times like this, it works to grow your band and grow your audience. So as I said, in this secondary league, we always try to push ourselves at the maximum, and this helps us to make longer steps than other bands. So the perception is that we are bigger, and so it works. So so that, going back to this, to your question, they have these other bands that are very numerous. A lot of people signed, but then it's just a few bands that make like proper steps, and that aim to the Premier League, to be promoted to the next level. And but the secret is just working hard and take all the challenges and just go for it every time. Even if you are scared, if you feel lost, if you feel depressed. As I said, at first it was disaster for me, but then it was like, what do? We need to find a way to use this time and to create something that makes sense in this off time. And now we have this concert, this live streaming concert in the works. We have new music. We have the podcast. We are releasing on a week basis, playthroughs and stuff like that. So we are there, and that's what counts. So, but it's amount of work. It's a huge amount of work. So
absolutely, yeah. Well, as I've always said, there are people who seek the problem, and there are people who seek for the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. We hope that this is going to be a solution for us.
Well, as Friedrich Nietzsche said, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. So, if we, in every adversity, in every problem, there are seeds of some benefit. Unless it kills you, you might find those benefits and actually use it to your advantage and also to everybody else's advantage. And I think this is the best way to get over any crisis. So whenever shit happens, and shit happens every day here, I just ask myself, okay, is this going to kill me? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, I say, okay, what can I learn from this, right? What is the lesson that the world is trying to teach me? How can I improve myself? What can I do? And what you're saying is exactly that. So you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to say, okay, in order to
try a new experience.
You have to say, in order to get something which I never had, I have to do something which I have never done. It's logical. And you go out there and you start doing it, and the result is here for everybody to see.
Yeah.
Right. Let's answer some questions and go to bed.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
Well,
Yeah, it's been very cool so far.
Yeah, sure. Well, at least here is 10:30 already. We've been talking for 1.5 hours. Let's see what questions we have, especially for you. Guys, if you have any questions which you would like to ask from Francesco here, or from myself, or from Core over there, you're welcome to post them because we are ready to answer them. Can you see the questions?
On the YouTube page. Yeah. I've seen people that they wrote a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff, yeah.
But
well, they're asking Francesco, will you play in the UK?
We will. Hopefully, it depends on your government. But yeah, it's still on. The show in London is still on. So hopefully we're gonna play there. As I said, the whole tour is still confirmed. So we just have to wait and see. I think during the summer we're gonna have more informations about the tour. But so far, what we know is that there's, as I said, the contagion curve in Europe is lowering. So I'm hoping that they're going to lift the restrictions and something is going to happen. We're going to go back to something close to normality in the fall, at least.
There is another question here. It says, do you have plans to come back to Manchester, United Kingdom? I was really looking forward to seeing you at the Rebellion Bar. I don't know, is that for you or for me? But in case that's for me, yes, we played there on the 23rd of September, and so far nobody has cancelled it. All the tickets are valid, and we hope that the UK government will lift two things. Thing number one is that you have to spend 2 weeks in quarantine when you fly there. And thing number two is the prohibition of concerts under 500 people, because the capacity is 400. So if those two things happen, which we really hope they will by the end of September, which is like in 3 months from now, then of course it happens. If those things do not happen, then we just move the concert further, but we do not cancel it. That's how it is.
Yeah, and for us, same. I mean, like, we have no plans for coming back to Manchester so far, but as soon as possible in 2021, pretty sure that we're gonna play some UK shows. So usually we play Manchester. So
right. What other questions do we have?
There's Ali Mary that asking, what are you drinking?
Oh, I'm drinking beer. Actually, I'm drinking Lithuanian beer, which is called Wolfas Engelman.
Cool, man. Ali Mary says it's Nespresso plus Smirnoff.
No, I don't drink vodka. I'm officially the only Russian person who grew up in Scotland who doesn't drink vodka or whiskey.
Yeah, I hear. Yeah, I hear from your English. I'm very jealous of your English, man.
Really, thanks. No, but my family are from the UK.
I wish I could speak like you, man.
It's not my achievement. I just grew up there. You know, if I grew up in Italy, I would be fluent in Italian, but
in Italian.
But it was the UK. Yeah. Right. Does Aur's cat play piano? Sometimes accidentally when the piano is on and she's like and she takes a walk, you know. But not deliberately.
What is our favorite meal? Pizza.
I roger that.
Of course.
I love pizza too.
Yeah.
And I can say,
Francesco, show us the guitars you have in the back.
Whoa. 1, 2, 3, 4. I can see at least 5.
No, I think like usually use two more or less. It's like, give me a second. I just need to. All right, so can you hear me?
Yeah.
So this one is the guitar that I use with FLESHGOD. Is a Ruffini. It's a custom-made guitar. It's like I have an EMG here, like 81. I have an frets, and so this is my custom guitar for FLESHGOD. And there's another one that I really love because it's one of the first guitar that I think the first guitar, proper metal guitar that I got, which is this, which is a little bit modified as like an Ibanez RG. So it's and I wrote a lot of riffs and wrote a lot of stuff with this one, and I'm using this for another project that I have, which is more death metal, more extreme, called Coffin Bird. So it's now tuned in. It's a A sharp standard, so pretty low.
That's fucking low.
Yeah.
For us, that's very low.
Yeah. And then I have some like acoustic guitar, classical guitar there, so some other stuff, another Ibanez, and some other shit going. Jackson there. I have some stuff here and there.
Right.
All right, so we will come back to Canada. We'll come back to Canada, man.
Yeah, we actually plan to be there in December, but let's see.
Thank you. The Eagle says the custom one was so beautiful. Thanks.
Right.
All right. Yeah. It's more or less.
People are asking how did you grow up in Scotland and have an English accent? Well, because first we lived in Southampton, then we lived in Exeter, and only then we moved to Glasgow. So I used to be able to speak Glaswegian and actually even understand it a wee bit, but I forgot it. It was tons of years ago.
When you at what age you moved back to Russia?
At 15. So I grew up in the UK, yeah, but then I moved here. And I'm actually, right now, I'm thinking of moving back or somewhere else, you know. Because I'm afraid that
You don't like Russia?
It's not... No, I love Russia.
I loved Moscow.
Russia is a fantastic country, but I'm not sure about our government, and I'm not sure that... You see, we, as a band, we are extremely dependent on the outside world. So we are a completely international band. We're absolutely global, and all our audience is in the West. You know, we actually don't have a lot of fans in Russia because the Russian audience is very specific. So if a band is from Russia, they want the band to sing in Russian. And if you sing in Russian, then nobody outside Russia understands you. So as the majority of metal bands, we sing in English, but the people here do not really like that. And this is one of the many reasons why there are not so many Russian bands who go international. And since we're one of those bands who actually went international, we are significantly dependent on the open borders for touring. And we are dependent on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, you know, to communicate with our fans. And the biggest thing that we're afraid of is that we face a situation like they have in China, where Facebook, YouTube, and all of that and Google is banned. you
You have restrictions and stuff like that.
And if they close the borders and introduce exit visas, that will be the end of our career. So this is something, because we would be cut off from our fans. So this is not something that we're looking forward to, and we're actually thinking of moving somewhere where we would not have any restrictions on
this kind of issue.
On movement.
All the other members are Russian.
Yes, everybody is. But I can speak for myself and for Jane. We are the two founders and leaders of the band. But I know that the rest of the band mostly thinks the same. So let's see how it develops. It's
pretty unfortunate.
Let's see how it develops. But in case shit hits the fan, we have, some back doors to open.
Yeah.
But as I said, let's see how it goes. Right. Do we have any more questions? Or
yes, St. Petersburg is an amazing city.
Yeah, that's for sure. I can agree with that.
What about an excess of satanic, esoteric, and occultist lyrics in metal songs?
Again, please.
Strange question for both. What about an excess of satanic, esoteric, and occultist lyrics in metal songs? But I always treated this kind of stuff or subjects like entertainment stuff. I mean, for me, it's just, if you make a band that's talking about Santa Claus, it's basically the same. So it's not. I think it's just like horror stuff or is literature, basically. So. If you can talk about Jesus, you can talk about Satan, you can talk about Frankenstein, you can talk about whatever. For me, it's just entertainment. So if people are looking for this kind of subjects as the concepts of their entertainment, then it's totally fine for me.
And I would actually separate all those three things. So Satanism is one thing, occultism and esoterics is something completely different. And for example, I'm a person who is heavily into the occult and into the esotericism, but Satanism for me is the same as Christianity. And I know right now all the Christians just went, what? But let me explain. Satan.
I'm too rational, man. I'm too rationalist for you.
No. Occultism.
We build our career on that.
Occultism is rationalism. It's but not so. Satan is the opposite of God, right? And Satan only exists in Abrahamic religions. So if we take Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, these are the three religions where Satan exists, because these are the monotheistic religions who have only one God, and there is the opposite of that God. So for me, it doesn't really matter which side of the coin you flip, it's the same coin. So Satan only exists in the context where Yahweh exists. Yahweh is the Judaistic name of the one God, where it all came from. So Christianity and Islam are branches of Judaism. But if you look at pagan religions like Egyptian paganism or Greek and Roman paganism or Northern Viking and Slavic paganism, there is no one God. There are no good and bad gods, and the concept of Satan simply doesn't exist there. You just have various deities, and so that's religions on the one hand. If you take the other hand, occultism and esotericism, that's science. So imagine that we take a modern physicist with an iPhone and we place him in the 14th century. And he takes an iPhone and says, look, I have some pictures here, and I can talk. Well, the next moment he's going to be burned at the stake, by the Inquisition for being a Satanist, because that's fucking black magic. What the hell, But that's just science,
Yeah.
And what I think that before our civilization, there was another more advanced civilization, which we know today as Atlantis. And what we call occultism and esotericism is the theoretical part of their science, which we know in theory, but we cannot prove in practice because we haven't reached that level yet. Yeah. And if you look at how modern science evolves, what they didn't know like 20 years ago, they already know now, but those things were written in magic books like 3,000 years ago. Like, for example, the main book of Kabbalah, the Zohar, it contains information about the Big Bang, but it was written from 1,500 to 3,000 years ago, depends on how you date it. And are things like the multiverse, in multiple dimensions and things like that. It's all in there. So I would completely separate these things because I think that they have not really much in common. So that was a very short answer.
Yeah, I think. I perfectly understand what you mean. But what I was saying is that I'm totally fine with whatever subject that people want to put in their songs. I mean, like, but you said that you are not preaching, but you preached a little bit.
Well, maybe, yeah. Well, I'm just expressing my opinion, but.
Yeah, I'm joking.
I don't have a goal of changing people's minds. Let's put it that way. So there is a question here. Or would you like to spread Russian language all over the world? No, as you can see, I'm speaking English, not Russian, because last time I checked, English was the world language. If Napoleon had won 200 years ago, then French would have been the world language, but he didn't. So it's English now. And if the Soviet Union would have won in the Cold War, then it would have been Russian, but it lost, so it's English. I have no problem with that.
This guy, I actually don't remember, but does FLESHGOD made a song in Italian, or will you sometime? Yeah, we are thinking about doing something in Italian, like one song, like a bonus song, but we never, done a song in Italian. How do you practice your vocals? I don't practice.
I don't practice my vocals either.
I'm too lazy.
Although I should.
Italian is better than French. I love French as well.
But, I think the whole idea of one language being better than the other are a complete mixture of concepts, because better is a point of view, It depends on who you are, where you come from, what your philosophy is, what's good. It's like if you take, I don't know, if you take like I don't know what, if you take a boot, a boot. Is a boot good or bad? You don't know. If you want to go outside and you put the boot on your foot and it makes you comfortable, it's a good thing. But if I take the boot and slap you in the face with it, then it's going to be bad for you. So, but it's going to be good for me, And the same thing. So is just a tool, So good or bad is something extremely undefinable, it depends on where you look at it. But languages, they just exist. You have French,
I think it was. I think it meant to. It meant to like how it sounds, but also I see his name is Italian, so I think it was a pretext to us a little bit.
I like both French and Italian. They're both Romanian languages. They stem from Latin.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very sad. It's personal, of course. All right.
Right. Do you like warm weather or cold weather? I hate cold weather. I want to move to a warm country like Italy. Honestly, because I'm fed up with the winter. You know, it's cool the first few years, but over a few years, it's just not cool. You know, I just wanted to have sunshine, to have the greens, to be able to go out every day, to be able to open the fucking window every day. You know, no question about that.
Yeah, I agree. Even if I like winter as well, but as you said, you know, we got like warm weather every here, so for the majority of the time. So we when we get the winter, you know, it's something like a special thing, and it's not very long. It's like just a few months. So
People are
yeah, it's not.
People are asking, what do you think about the current situation in the United States? We've been discussing it the first half an hour of our discussion.
Yeah, but yeah, we think that it's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, that's the summary.
Yeah, the summary is it's pretty fucked up, pretty out of control.
But I believe in America. I think that it's better for people to speak as they do right now than to keep silent like they do here. You know, I think it's better to go out and say what you think. So that's the First Amendment, and the people have the right to do so. Question is, who is being manipulated by whom? So what I don't like is when such things are used to separate people, but we've discussed that before. You know. Right. I think that's.
We will come back to Napoli.
Sorry?
I'm answering to Marco. We will come back to Napoli.
You or us?
No. We said FLESHGOD can come back to Napoli. Yeah, we will. Probably, I don't know when, but it is what it is. It is now.
Right. Okay. I think we stop here. We've been chatting for 2 hours. Thank you so much, Francesco. That was absolutely.
It's been a pleasure, man.
It's been a pleasure. It has been extremely interesting. We had a lot of questions.
Yeah, I tried my best with my.
Hello.
I that we treated were pretty, you know, not common in this kind of chat that I do, because most of the time we talk about music and interviews. So my vocabulary is set on that kind of stuff. I tried my best to express myself, but you know, it was much fun, and thank you very much for having me.
Okay, and thank you for your opinions, for what you said, and I look forward to meeting you at some point somewhere on tours, on festivals, wherever the world is very small and the musical world is just a small village. So see you. Okay.
Cool. Yeah. So to put you on tour with us sometime.
Oh, that would be amazing. If that would be possible, that would be cool. Yeah.
Cool.
Maybe it's at some point. Okay, so see you there.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you. Ciao.